Shabbat Sholom. As you notice, we're in a different place than we typically are. We wanted to move it this week to someplace special, so here we are at the monastery studios. Tonight we are honoring Shabbat with Shabbatish, which is all original music based on traditional liturgy. You'll notice that everything here has a different sound, but maybe the words are similar, or vice versa, that through the amazing efforts of Ric Hordinski, we've been able to transform the Jewish liturgy into something renewed and sacred in its own right. And so if it's unfamiliar, then just listen deeply, and if it's familiar, please sing along. We will begin Shabbat just the same way we always do, with the lighting of the candles. So we invite Julie Solomon to light them in honor of her father's yahrzeit.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
We continue now into the heart of our service, Shema. It's the central piece of any Jewish liturgy, and it's asking us to do two things. It's asking us to hear the words of oneness that's part of the tradition, and also to listen, not just the physicality of it, but also the meaning of it and the spirituality of it. And we repeat it over and over and over, because hearing it just once doesn't quite soak in. And then once it does, then you want it to penetrate not just your own body and your own mind, your own spirit, but then out into the people you love and onward into the world. So with that, we continue with Shema.
Shema.
As we center ourselves with the sacred words of the Shema, our hearts open to the idea of wholeness, the sense that we're part of something and give ourselves to something so much greater than just the individual. And it is into that mysterious thread of connection that we grasp for when we are struggling, when we are in need of healing of body, mind, and spirit. We pray to the holy connective tissue of the universe. We ask for strength to guide us through these shadows, to restore our faith, to heal our bodies, and to return us to a place of gratitude and awareness for all that we have, holding fast to the knowledge that we're made for good. In our community of Temple Sholom, we pray for refuah shlema, for the complete healing of body, mind, and spirit, for Mira Barner, Corinne Belford, Deborah Birch, Sheila Boniface, Karen Bunyan, Aaron Kanowitz, Ellen Danelsky, Rabbi Alexander Dukovny, Jean Hauser, Phyllis Epstein, Phyllis Fine, Lorraine Fredrickson, Ken Goldman, Arnie Gottman, David Gervis, Charles Gutman, Judith Gutman, Bob Grossman, Jonathan Grossman, Rob Hill, Jim Huckberg, Pele Yankovic, Michael Jordan, Ethan Kadish, Gita Knudsen, Yael Kraus, Lee Krennick, Jennifer Hall, Elaine Heitfield, Zila Gershon ben Hanoch Lieb HaKohen, Chava Leah, Grayson Malkin, Lou Levy, Joan Lieb, Barry Levy, Leslie Lisnick-Pate, Eva Minichi, Marcy Maxwell, Rhoda Meyer, Mika Ben Melvin, Lou Merman, Phil Ryan, Bamaya Reed, David Rose, Daniel Rosen, Larry Rubin, Jeff Sawyer, Irish Sham, Boris Shirkin, Louis Simon, Barry Simon, Archbishop Chuck Smith, Jim Tanner, Patty Walt, Stu Warshauer, Scott Yano, Chaim Ben Yaakov and Nachama, Chava Nesia Bat Chai Yisraela. And to all these names, we add our names as well, as we're all on a journey to healing and wholeness in some way. And for me, something truly restorative, even in the bitterness of this cold season, is to take a moment to walk outside, sometimes with a friend and always with my dog. So in the spirit of holy healing power of trees and nature, I share with you this poem, When I Am Among the Trees by Mary Oliver. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locusts, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say. And you have to come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine.
There's a sliver of moon climbing over the hill. The night's too big to swallow, it's too tough to kill. You're too footsore to run, and you're too worn to fight. So you close your eyes and wait for the light. You sat in the garden with your back to the wall, afraid to sit pretty, afraid to stand tall. You ate of the fruit, still you don't know what's right. So you close your eyes and wait for the light. Wait for the light, wait for the light, like a babe in the cradle with the shutters drawn tight. When the oil in your lamp won't last the night, you just close your eyes and wait for the light. In a fallow field waiting till spring is in sight, or you sag and you sing and you break in the night. 'Cause your heart is a sparrow, it's too tired to take flight. So you close your eyes and wait for the light. Wait for the light, wait for the light. Close your eyes and wait for the light. Through the smoke of the battle, when there's no land in sight, you just close your eyes and wait for the light. Wait for the light, wait for the light. Close your eyes and wait for the light. When you hear the chain creaking and the collar seems tight, you just close your eyes and wait for the light.
The first line of this week's Torah portion, Truma. The Israelites are asked to build God a sanctuary. It is the first time we hear that God must be contained in a space made in a very specific manner. Our Torah tells us to build the Mishkan, the sanctuary, with these words. Whosoever heart moves them should bring a half shekel to contribute to the building of the Holy of Holies. It's highly unusual for the Hebrew Bible to issue a commandment that is based on emotions. But here, the holiest thing the Israelites will ever make must be made with components given based on heart's desires. And then, after this feeling sentence, there are pages and pages, or I guess scrolls and scrolls of directions, of cubits and hooks and measurements and curtains. And then there's this listing of acceptable building materials like gold and silver and copper. But hold up, where do they get all that stuff? The Egyptians. The Israelites are building a holy tabernacle so that God may dwell within it with the spoils they took with them out of Egypt. They are constructing a new sacred space with Egyptian wealth. In Egypt wasn't just a dangerous place physically and psychically. It was a spiritually toxic environment. In Egypt, God and property were linked, exemplified by the massive building and excessive signs of wealth, which were all deified. And when the Israelites fled that environment, they took with them not just matzah on their backs, but the booty of slavery, their reparations. They took those too. One might look at wilderness, its barren landscape, its loneliness, as a stark contrast to all that materialism. Like God was trying to leave the people not just out of slavery, but also out of the bondage of consecrated material gain, and into a new paradigm that was cleansed of toxic, deified wealth. Don't get me wrong, Torah is totally fine with wealth, with gold and silver and even these weird little ornate carvings of cherubs all over the place. But with all that wealth, we must use it in a very specific way. The Torah says, give it. Don't hoard it. Return wealth back into your community. And that's one way of building God's sanctuary, God's mishkan, God's dwelling places in our world. The sanctuary, this mishkan, the space itself, is not a pathway to God, nor is it truly a container of God. Not really. The mishkan is a place that we can just drop off our baggage, the weight of oppression and materialism, misplaced energy, our own blech, and just make room for our own beauty, the beauty of humanity. We build this box for God in the desert, and also now, so that we can have a parameter to drop off that baggage of the ego, this boundary of spaciousness, all for the purpose of being able to pick up a mantle of God's work. And the stuff itself, as the amazing scholar Aviva Zornberg points out, if you read the exact descriptions laid out in this Torah portion, the most precious, ornate, and golden elements of the Mishkan, the ark, the golden cherubs, the hand-carved almond blossoms, none of that opulence was on display or in view of anyone, ever, except for the high priest on Yom Kippur. And even then, it was through a fog of incense. So, who were those intricate carvings and the gold actually intended for? Because we all know that God didn't need that stuff, and we weren't even looking at it. Maybe it was one of those tests, like give from your heart, and then see what's left. Because what all you're left with after you give from your heart, that's kind of what matters. A few weeks from now, a couple portions later, we'll read about a census in portion Kitisa, where the means of counting a community member is to pay a half shekel. So the way we're counting is we pay the same small amount. Maybe it's the last little bit that was ever left in everyone's pocket after finally making this mishkan. But whatever it is, they use a word for giving that half shekel, and the word is vinatnu. Let me grab this. I have it written out for you, so even if you don't read Hebrew, you can kind of tell there's something unique about this word. What do you see? It's a palindrome. So you know how the rabbis, they love to make, and I say they, well, I'm one too, right? So we love to do stuff with words here. We think it's interesting. We always think there's meaning, that this giving word means something. There's all kinds of commentary about flow, that there's a reason that giving is backwards and forwards, that can be read left to right all the same way. There's this 13th century teaching that says that that word is the basis for all sacred giving, all tzedakah, that when you give to the world, those things will come back to you. The census is usually translated as when you count the people, but can just as well be translated as when you lift the people. Our wealth is worth more when it lifts other people with us. Rabbi Shimshon Siegel said, the Jewish people were born out of rejection of material worship and charged with the mission of transforming the way societies view wealth. The rabbis thought that the holies of holies should not be created through a sense of obligation. Giving is a requisite behavior for healthy community. But when you give anything, whether it's a half shekel or pure gold, it must come from the heart. Holy things are made holy by being built with the openness of heart. The Israelites at that time needed a space to say, look, that's God's house, and therefore everything else is our dwelling place. And therefore we've got to make God's presence felt through our own communal acts of generosity. Maybe that's one of the blessings from the pandemic right now, because we can't congregate in God's house the way we used to, and we can't worship the way we've always done it. But God's work, our work, with humans caring for other humans, that still happens. Maybe even more than it did before COVID-19. When we're meeting back at the Mishkan, our own sanctuary. I miss seeing you all. I miss talking to other humans instead of the camera. But this moment is not so different than that once upon a time moment way out in the desert, when our people sought to build a house for God through relieving ourselves material burdens that we once claimed were holy. And only then, once we got rid of all the extra stuff, did we, the formerly enslaved and persecuted, really discover who we were and what freedom could mean. This is freedom. It's not very comfortable or predictable. But this moment, this place, this way of being, it's holy. Holiness happens with the intentional letting go of baggage, of all the things that we treated like God, but aren't God. And then tapping into that flow of that v'natnu of giving, saying our time and our energy, our dreaming, our building, our praying, our connecting, of doing things differently and boldly, as active ways of living and lifting all people and counting ourselves as part of God's people. Shabbat Shalom.
And we see the broken promised land from the tower of our dreams, through the curtain of the air we share, though we don't know what that means. The space between our minds and hearts, the space between the flesh, is the temple, nothing more or less. This is what holy means. All we build turns to dust. All our golden words resolve to rust. The sun it rises, the sun it sets, and there's nothing new to see. And all we have is what we are. This is what holy means. And we see the broken promised land from the tower of our dreams, through the curtain of the air we share, though we don't know what that means. The space between our minds and hearts, the space between the flesh, is the temple, nothing more or less. This is what holy means. Everything has beauty in its time. eat our bread with laughter, drink our wine with a merry heart, with joy divine. 'Cause two are better than one, and I only am because you are. This is what holy means. And we see the broken promised land from the tower of our dreams, through the curtain of the air we share, though we don't know what that means. The space between our minds and hearts, the space between the flesh, is the temple, nothing more or less. This is what holy means.
Come there's no iron in the fire. Come on up to the house, and you sing lead soprano in a junk man's choir. Come on up to the house. Does life seem nasty, brutish and short? Come on up to the house. The seas are stormy and you can't find no port. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. The world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. The world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. Come on up to the house. There's nothing in the world that you can do. Come on up to the house, and you've been whipped by forces that are inside you. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house.
So this next song is a pretty old song by pop song standards. It's probably at least 100 years old, and it's not just a testament to the human spirit and our resilience, but a reminder that the more things change, the more they stay the same. This is Hard Times Come Again No More.
Let us pause in life's pleasures and count its many tears, while we all sup sorrow with the poor. There's a song that will linger forever in our ears. Oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more. the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many a day you have lingered all around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more.
Psalm 23. Mizmor David. Adonai ro'i lo achzar, binot deshet yarbitzeni. Almei minu chot yanaleni, nashe yoshvev yancheni, v'mal tzedek leman shimo. Gam ki elech b'tzetzal mavet lo yirara, ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishentecha, hemayanachamuni, ta'aruch lefanai shalchan neget sa'arai. Dishanta v'ashemen rosi kosirai. Ach, tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti b'veit Adonai la'orech yamim. Adonai, my shepherd, I lack for nothing. In meadows thick with grass, you lay me down. Across streams serene, you guide me. My life, you restore, leading me serenely in well-worn paths of justice to glorify your name. Even when I walk in a valley dark as death's shadow, I shall fear no ferocity, for you are with me. Your staff and your walking stick, they reassure me. You set a table before me along with my enemies. You rain rich oils round my head. My cup, it's overflowing. For certain, goodness and the love of your covenant will run after me all the days of my life. And I shall abide in God's house, in the Mishkan, for long days, long, long days. We mourn the recent passing of Henry Harris Jr., the beloved husband of Joyce Harris, and Margie Ryder, beloved mother-in-law of Phil Fisher. We commemorate the anniversaries of the passing, the yahrzeits of Cookie Aronoff, Marion Rickles, Dolly Lutterby, Daisy Simon, Harold Vallon, Beatrice Schiffman, David Weintraub, Minnie Flansbaum, Louis Kaplan, Dorothy Rabin, Louis Griff, Emery Grubbs, Harry Hauser, Lee Gordon, Mark Lister, Howard Barish, Sylvia Strauss, Gerald Schreiberg, Adeline Ekman. May their memories be a blessing. Together we rise for Kaddish Yatom, our prayer of affirmation and mourning. Yitkadal v'kadash shemei Rabbi, v'alma divrach yiroteh v'yamlich machuteh, v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol be'Yisrael, v'agala v'izman kariv, v'imru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbi mevarach l'olam umei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kedusha brichu. La'ela min kol berchata v'shir'ata, tushbachata v'nechamata d'amiram be'ama v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbi min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. We're continuing next with a song that is written from Psalm 23, what we started with. The Ki ata imadi is the center part of this prayer, saying that even though we're going through all this, we're not alone, and that we are with God. As we conclude tonight's service, a special thank you to Cricket Media for helping make this production possible, to Julie Solomon for lighting the candles, Jenny for doing everything you do, to this incredible band, to Brooklyn and Dan and Baba and Brooks, to the sound here at Monastery Studios, and of course, the amazing Ric Hordinski for all that you do to make this possible. And thank you to all of you to give us a chance at a different kind of Shabbatish here in a new kind of Mishkan, and hopefully you're building sanctuaries for yourself everywhere that you are right now. And so, as a final blessing to all of you, if you could do what you'd normally do if we were together and we wanted to offer a blessing. You could put your hands out this way. You can give yourself a hug. You can put your hands on your head like maybe your parents did. You could take a knee because there's still plenty to be fighting for. Whatever works for you to receive a blessing in this moment. Yivrachecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may God bless you and keep you. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'chonecha, may God's light shine upon you, be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, when God's light shines upon you. May you remember that all this is temporary, that there are beautiful trees outside waiting for you, even though it's cold, and that once you come inside, may you be warned by the notion and the knowledge that you are wanted and that you are loved by God and by me and by everyone in your life, and that you are needed exactly as you are.
Wait for the light, wait for the light, like a babe in the cradle with the shutters drawn tight. When the